Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good evening so far. So we're back with Chaos Head Noah tonight. Last time I streamed this, we had a pretty long episode because I got into a pretty lengthy scene. That could have potentially, I guess, been the end of Takumi's quest for the D sword. I would say probably the biggest twist was the fact that Shogun actually wanted Takumi to obtain the D sword. If you remember, up to this point, Takumi wanted to find the D sword because he thought he would be able to defend himself against Shogun with the D sword. But here, Shogun is wanting Takumi to get the D sword. So it definitely appears at this point like Shogun does not want to kill Takumi, even though all this time Takumi's kind of been acting like Shogun is trying to kill him, or will eventually kill him anyway. Basically, what started off that whole deal was while Takumi was at school that day. Remember, he went to school because he was looking for Rimi, and he kind of inadvertently saved Ayase from falling to her death. Sena actually showed up shortly after that and harshly questioned Takumi. She even was pretty much choking him at one point, because she was so, I guess, stunned that Takumi was able to have this flower bed appear to save Ayase. And then she abruptly left after questioning him. And then when Takumi got back to his place, he found a package that Shogun had left there while he was gone, which contained a severed hand holding Nanami's cell phone. Nanami, of course, is Takumi's little sister. So obviously this freaked him out. He also received an email from Shogun that told him to meet Shogun at some building, I think in kind of central Shibuya. At 9 o'clock that night, which Takumi did. He went to the building, he found Shogun there, and then Shogun instructed him to take a look through a hole that was in this sign on the rooftop of the building. So basically, Takumi was kind of just standing at the edge of this building, looking over the square below and a bunch of other buildings, and Then after that, well, Takumi found that there were like a bunch of people gathered there to watch him as he peered out. And they were like, I don't know. Basically, Takumi got the idea that they were kind of there just to wallow in his misery, and cheer on his misery, I guess. And then he was also being broadcast on a TV station because he was like kind of watching a big display of himself on another building. And then Shogun instructed Takumi to try and find the D sword from there, and he couldn't like move away from the edge of the building. He had to stay there and look for it. And so it was at that point that we got into kind of this weird sequence where we got some like cryptic kind of statements, text statements at the bottom of the screen, and we had to either indicate yes or no, and if you didn't select the right answer, then Shogun basically just shoved you. Well, I guess not Shogun, but somebody shoved Takumi off the building, and he falls to his death, and then you would have to load up and start over again. But I got past that, and Takumi ends up finding the D sword, and it's weird because it's like it's this really long and narrow kind of sword, I guess, and it looks like it's on the side of a building, so it's like freaking huge, right? And he's like, he doesn't even know how he's supposed to like wield this thing or grab it because it's so big. But Shogun is telling him he has to try and do this or else he fails the test, and then Nanami will die. And so he tries to go through with it. He tries to reach out, but ultimately he succumbs to his fear because he's reaching out over the edge of a building and he thinks he's gonna fall off, so he chickens out. And then Shogun just kind of disappears after that, actually. And he leaves behind, and this is the weirdest part in the whole thing, Shogun leaves behind Darth Vader's mask. Yeah, Darth Vader. I'm serious. I'm not shitting you here. All that's left of, I guess, Shogun's presence at the end of this scene is a Darth Vader mask. Although I guess they actually had like a kind of a spider web thing printed on it, and then they called it Darth Spider. I guess they did that to avoid copyright. But yeah, this is basically Darth Vader's helmet. And then the scene ended after that. And then we got a much shorter scene with Bon continuing his investigation, but he's being sidetracked because he's looking at some videos of some incidents that happened that aren't necessarily connected to the New Gen case, but these incidents apparently involve Sena, who is going around attacking people, and as far as the police know, She's just attacking random people. But what's actually going on is the people that she's attacking have backpacks, and those backpacks are some kind of like they're like brainwashing devices, basically. Like, people will just like walk up to the person with the backpack, and like the police don't know what the hell they're doing, but they'll just kind of stare at them and not really say anything. So police don't really know what's going on with that. And then Sena will come up and destroy the backpack and attack these people. And then yeah. So that's everything that happened last time. Quite a bit to go through because it was pretty long, but yeah. All right, so we will continue where we left off right after the video of Sena that Bon watched. So the world around me was perfectly white. I was lying down. It felt like I was floating, but I couldn't tell if I was. I couldn't tell which way was up and which way was down. The silence was loud in my ears. It was like hundreds of crickets were chirping in my head. If somebody had told me this was the afterlife, I wouldn't have doubted it for a second. The place was just so monotone, empty, silent, orderly, organized, vacant, and peaceful. This must have been what the Buddha's brain was like after he achieved enlightenment. It wasn't like my brain at all. I wanted to stay here forever. All the crap I had to put up with in the real world, the pain, the suffering, the emptiness. I didn't want to deal with any of it. And then a noise disrupted the silent white world. It was the sound of a door opening and the sound of somebody's footsteps. They were coming closer.
Oni, 来たよ.
Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, like right at the end of that scene where Shogun was telling Takumi what to do, right after Shogun disappeared, Takumi had this like really brief vision of his sister Nanami, and she was asking him like, why didn't you save me, you know, since he failed the test that Shogun was telling him to do. So yeah, that's all there was to that. We don't know how real this vision was, if Nanami truly is in danger or what's going on. So
よいしょ、よいしょ。お兄、お兄、今日ね、ナナね、いいもの持ってきたんだよ。はい、これ、プレゼント。手編みの帽子なんだよ。すごいでしょ、すごいでしょ。もう冬だしね。ナナね、帽子好きだから編んだの。使ってね。お兄、無視しないでよ。ああ、ご飯残してるじゃん。せっかくのカレーなのに。ちゃんと食べないとダメなんだよ。ねえねえ、病院のご飯って美味しくないって本当？でも食べないとダメ。起きろ、お兄。食べずに寝たら夜になってお腹空いちゃうんだから。
Somebody's hand came around to my back. They pushed me and sat me up. It was only then that I realized my eyes were closed. I opened them, and there was a small girl there. It was Nanami, my little sister. But she was so small. It was Nanami as she looked several years ago. How many years, though? She had to be in elementary school at least. The young Nanami scooped up curry with a plastic spoon and offered it to me. And I knocked her hand away. And for some reason, I swept the tray with the curry rice onto the floor with my arm. Nanami crouched down and picked up the tray. Next, she brought a washcloth over from the sink in the corner of the room and began to clean up its splattered contents. Just leave me alone. I covered my face with my hands and slowly closed my eyes.
ごめんね。あなたを守ってあげられなくて。
I slowly opened my eyes and saw a white ceiling. The white was dazzlingly bright. I blinked a few times. I tried moving my fingers. I brought my hand up to my face. My hand made a shadow blocking the light. Only then was I free from the brightness. I'd been dreaming. It was a dream about Nanami. Nanami had always been such a little grown-up. That tendency of hers had only gotten more pronounced when I'd stopped talking to everybody after the bus accident. My parents just became overprotective, but whatever mean things Nanami might say, she would always try and take care of me. But that dream... Had I ever stayed at a hospital like that? I'd been going to one, but never stayed there, right? Well, there was no point in trying to read too much into a dream. I was lying down on a bed. It was a simple white bed. The sheets were white, the pillows were white, the linoleum floor was white, the wallpaper was white too. Even the fluorescent lights on the ceiling were white. The curtains on the windows were white. The tiny shelf next to the bed was white. The porcelain pitcher on it was white. The paper cups were white. I was starting to get sick of all the white. I tried forcing myself to sit up. For a single instant, I felt a numbing pain around my lower back, but it quickly vanished. The room was pretty big, twice the size of the base at least, but it was empty. It might have been a hospital room. I could see a single pair of green slippers just under the bed. I felt relieved to find something that wasn't white. I was moving, and I wasn't dead from the look of it. My throat was dry. I wanted a soda, a cold, fizzy soda. But of course, there was nothing like that in this pure white room. I ended up pouring water from the pitcher directly into my mouth. It was a little warm, but enough to slake my thirst. After I finished drinking my water and taking a moment to catch my breath, the door opened and a white-clad nurse came in. So this place was a hospital after all, then. She seemed a little surprised as she looked at me. She'd thought I was still asleep, it seemed.
あら。西条さん、目が覚めたんですね。
She smiled gently at me. What a great nurse she was. Wait, I feel like I'd seen her somewhere before. Oh, now I remember. I'd met her when I'd gone to see Dr. Takashina. What was her name again? I couldn't remember, so I glanced at the name tag on her chest. Hazuki, it read. Right, Hazuki.
お体の調子はどうですか?
She offered me a thermometer. I took it without really thinking about what was going on.
体温を測ってくださいね。
I couldn't say no if she was going to be this nice. My head was overflowing with doubts, but I put the thermometer under my arm anyway. Then the memories burst inside my head. I remembered what had happened before. Up on the roof. After I'd given up on saving Nanami, I'd charged Shogun in his wheelchair. But there was nobody there. I'd fallen over and found myself holding a Darth Spider helmet. Count Darth Spider was a famous villain from the movie Spark Wars. His all-black silhouette was famous even in Japan. I'd never expected in a million years to find that Shogun was wearing a Darth Spider cosplay. All my anger melted away, replaced by confusion. I stood up and looked at the wheelchair. Nobody was in it. There was a black hooded robe draped over the back of the chair. It was part of Darth Spider's costume, too. I looked around to see if anyone else was there, but there wasn't. I was the only person on the dark roof. Then the media came rushing in. They surrounded me with microphones, cameras, and lighting. Hold on. Let me, See, I don't know if this is going to be considered a voice volume or a sound effect volume. I guess let's just turn this down a bit here. I guess it's considered a sound effect. There was nowhere to turn. I didn't count how many people were there, but at least a dozen. The sheer intensity of them all terrified me. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move an inch. They were crushing me.
西条君、帽子はどうなっちゃったのかな？
結局ニュージェネの犯人は誰なのかわからないということですか？
そのダーススパイダーのヘルメットは何か超能力と関係あるのかな？
西条さん、答えてくれませんか？これで終わりなんて言うなら電波ジャックですよ。
結局何がしたかったんです？ニュージェネに便乗した売名行為ですか？不謹慎だと思わないんですか？
ユーリ・ブライトマンさんとは最近話したかな？どんなこと話した？
地震とニュージェネについて何か関係あると思いますか？
その手に持っている美少女フィギュアは何らかの儀式的なアイテムと考えていいんですか？
For some kind of ritual. Shit.
このような行動を取ったことにはアニメやゲームの影響はあったのかな？
西条さん、
西条さん、
西条君。
The lights were so bright. It felt like my flesh was burning under a midsummer sun. There were so many people around me that the heat of their bodies was making my head feel woozy. My vision was spinning. I was pushed into a corner, panicking. I couldn't breathe. I put my hands to my head. I couldn't see a thing. I didn't want to see a thing. I couldn't hear a thing. I didn't want to hear anything. I couldn't feel a thing. I didn't want to feel a thing.
やめて。やめてくれ！
And as I screamed, my mind went blank, like it had short-circuited. That's right. I passed out. And then, how'd I end up here after that? I couldn't remember. If nothing else, I was sure I hadn't walked here on my own. Maybe I'd been brought here by an ambulance? Hazuki was writing something on the clipboard in her hand. There must have been some kind of paper stuck on it. Was she writing down my symptoms? I was able to check the time from the simple nondescript wristwatch on her arm. It was just past 6 in the morning. I'd been out for a long time from the look of it. Hold on, I thought I locked this. Damn it. I should have done that, actually. But why this hospital, though? If Hazuki was here, that meant it was the one I usually went to. This place was a big general hospital. I could see somebody deciding to bring me here. But something still didn't seem right. I wasn't sure why Hazuki would be the one assigned to me. She worked in the psychiatric ward, right? If she was here, did that mean this room was usually used by mental patients? Maybe the beds were all full because so many people were hurt in the earthquake yesterday? Maybe the beds in the mental ward had been the only ones open? Or maybe they thought I had collapsed because of some mental disorder? Well, if they did, they weren't that far off. I was starting to feel more and more depressed.
昨日ご家族がお見えになっていたんですけど、西条さんの意識が戻らないので、日付が変わる頃にお帰りになりました。今日は診察時間が始まる頃にお母様が来るそうですよ。
I nodded since I didn't even have the strength to answer. Mom, I'm the most embarrassing son in all of Japan. No, maybe the entire world. Why did it have to be on TV? The whole country had seen me up there, sobbing and crying. It was almost certainly on YouTube, too. I didn't know why they were saying I was some kind of psychic boy, or why they'd want to broadcast every move of a creepy loser otaku like me on the day of that huge earthquake. The only conclusion I could come up with was that Shogun really had mind-controlled them all. Either way, they'd seen me in all my shame. This wasn't just some internet thing that'd be over in a day or two. I might not ever have a peaceful life again. Suddenly, an image of Nanami's face flashed in my mind. I bit my lip and squeezed my hands against my thighs. If I'd managed to save Nanami, none of that would have mattered. The whole world could have laughed at me for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't have cared. But I hadn't even been able to save her.
Nana.
The tears came pouring down my face.
どうしました？どこか痛みます？
I shook my head again and again as I cried. Nanami was dead. Nanami wasn't coming back. It was my fault. It was my fault. It was my fault. It was my fault. Because I was such a loser. That's why Nanami had died. Up on that roof, I'd listened to Seiraton, or rather, my heart's weakness talking to me through her, and given up on the D-sword without even really trying. I'd chosen to save myself and pretend to be a poor little victim instead of saving her. I hated myself from the bottom of my heart. If, when I was up there, if I'd tried a little harder, I was the one who'd made the decision to give up, and yet I regretted it now that everything was over. That was the worst possible thing a person could do. Regret didn't help anybody, but still, I couldn't help but think, if I could go back to that moment, I'd try a little harder. But of course, even if I did go back, I'd probably make a bunch of excuses and give up again anyway. That was what I always did. God, I was pathetic.
Nanami. ごめん。Nanami.
Hazuki rubbed my back to comfort me. I was such a failure. I was even causing trouble for this nurse, and she had nothing to do with it. But the tears kept coming.
何か後悔していることがあるんですね。でもきっと妹さんも許してくれますよ。
How did she know Nanami was my sister? And I didn't want to hear something so cliched. I hated to say this about Hazuki when she was being so nice to me. But there was no way she could understand how I felt. I hated myself so much. I was so pathetic. I kept looking for other people to comfort me when I only cared about myself. I'd be better off dead. Maybe I really should kill myself.
昨日もしきりに西条さんのことを心配していましたよ。とても可愛らしい妹さんですね。
What was she talking about?
ナナミは妹は死にました。
Shogun had kidnapped her. He'd chopped her off her arm. He'd locked her up somewhere. And she'd probably died there, all by herself and lonely. The thought of it made me feel like my heart would burst.
そうなんですか。ごめんなさい。勘違いしてしまって。
I'd always thought that Nanami was obnoxious, but thinking back, we'd been siblings for 16 years. She'd always called me a jerk, but she'd always been worried about me. She was always so annoying because she was trying to break me out of my miserable life. When she brought something to eat from home, she didn't just give it to me. She always tried to make sure we ate together. Normally, a girl that age would be trying her best to ignore a creepy older brother like me. Nanami might have been mean, but she'd always talk to me. She always listened to what I had to say. At school, even, instead of ignoring me, she actively tried to talk to me. I was a pathetic virgin otaku, but Nanami had always treated me like I was her brother, like I was a person. She was one of the few things that kept me going. Realizing that when it was too late didn't change anything, though.
でも、だとしたら鬼ってどういう意味なのかしら。
Huh? I looked up, unsure of what she meant. My eyes were so teary, I couldn't see the look on her face. What had she just said?
眠ってる西条さんをお兄、お兄と何度も呼んでいたから、その印象が強くて。
There was only one person who called me that.
それ、本当ですか？
I was so excited that I got out of bed and went over to her.
はい、何がです？
ナナミが、ナナミがここに来てたんですか？
いえ、はっきりお名前を聞いたわけでは。
僕のこと鬼って呼んでたんですね。
ええ。
ナナミは今どこに？
ですから、昨日はお帰りになりましたけど、西条さんのお母様と一緒に。
怪我とかしてませんでしたか？
はい。いえ、特には。
Welp. Sounds like Takumi got played by Shogun. God damn, Seraton was right.
元気だったんですね。ナナミは元気だったんですね。
はい。いえ、 ナナミさんかどうかはわかりませんけど、昨日いらしていた女の子は元気そうでしたよ。
Nanami was alive. From what Hazuki was saying, that much seemed clear. I sat back down on the bed. My brain was close to total shutdown. What had happened? Shogun said he wouldn't give Nanami back unless I finished the quest. Had he released her out of pity? Was that even possible? Or had she run away on her own? But then, what about the hand that had shown up in my room? Hazuki had even said she wasn't hurt.
もしかしたら君の家に送ったあの手首は別人のものかもしれないよ。
So he wasn't lying when he said that. Shogun had just been toying with me. He'd deceived me. No, the fact that he deceived me didn't even matter now.
そっか。
So she was okay. She was okay. She was okay. Nanami had never been kidnapped in the first place. While I was on top of O-Front trying to grab that D-sword, she was probably at home reading manga in bed or going to karaoke with her friends and singing off key. I was crying, but I couldn't stop laughing.
西条さん？
将軍にまんまと騙された。なんという壮大な釣りだよ。
Nanami was alive. She was alive. I'd get to see her bratty face again. Hear her obnoxious voice again. I felt so relieved and so happy.
よかった。
The tears wouldn't stop, but they weren't the tears of frustration I'd been weeping a moment ago.
よかった。
Maybe I was a total failure. Maybe I'd given up on trying to save Nanami on my own yesterday. But as long as she was safe, that was all that mattered. The whole world could laugh at me, and I wouldn't care. Really, I was just so happy. Alright, I'm gonna grab some water, so I will be right back. we're back. So let's continue. There was another meeting being held in the big conference room at the Shibuya police station today. All the detectives looked exhausted, and none of them were looking forward to more hours of useless discussion. As Matsunaga started asking the various officers for their reports, Bon nervously raised his hand.
ちょっといいですかね。
なんだね。
It wasn't just Matsunaga who looked suspicious. Even Suwa in the chair next to him, and the rest of the detectives too, looked suspicious. Bon gave his usual shallow smile, and then made a few little bows as he looked around the room.
先日インターネット上に投稿されたいわゆる集団ダイブの映像についてなんですが、実はちょっとした発見をしまして。え？
Suwa seemed shocked. It was understandable that he would be. Bon hadn't told his partner a word about his investigations into the video. Of course, it wasn't that he wanted to keep it a secret, but...
バン警部補、君は確か貼り付けの捜査担当だったはずだが、なぜ集団ダイブについて調べている？
Well, that was why. Bon had been ignoring the task force's orders and going off on his own, and he didn't want to get Suwa involved. That would be a great way to ruin the career of a promising young detective.
まあとりあえず見てくださいって。
Bon gave a sheepish smile as he took large photos out of the file folder in front of him. He pinned them to the board with magnets.
これはどっちも集団ダイブの現場となったコーネリアスタワー屋上の写真です。
Wait, are you telling me they jumped off this fucking building here? Oh, fuck, dude. Damn.
右の写真は例のミュウツベ投稿映像から抜き出したもの。左のは昨日の夜、私がタワー屋上に行って撮ってきたものになります。 何か違いに気づきませんか?
Okay, wait. So if he took the picture from up the top of it, then this is not Cornelius Tower. This is some other building then. So never mind. Although it still looks like he's pretty high up anyway. But yeah, obviously there is something unusual. There's a big ass building here and there's no building in this picture. But I mean, surely somebody would have noticed that by now. Murmurs spread throughout the room.
背景がね、違うんです。投稿映像のカメラは北東へ向かってる。5人が転落したのが北東だったから間違いない。で、映像では3分29秒から約15秒間、カメラが左右へ大きく触れるんですが、その時に東に向いた時の映像がこの右側の写真なわけです。コーネリアスタワーの東、つまり六本木方面ですね。東京タワーが夜景の中にしっかり映ってる。高いから目立ちますね。
Tokyo Tower. So I'm assuming that's this, the big building here.
でもね、もう一つよく目立つものが映ってないんですよ。
Bond narrowed his eyes and stroked the stubble on his chin, a self-deprecating smile on his face.
六本木ビルズですよ。
A look at the photo showed he was right. There was no sign of the lights from Roppongi Bills. Okay, I don't know what they're talking about. But in the photo that Bond had taken yesterday, the lights from the windows of Roppongi Bills could clearly be seen next to Tokyo Tower. Shit.
で、たまたま見つけたんですが、コーネリアスタワーのホテルロビーにタワー完成当時のパネルが展示してありましてね。
Oh, are you saying the building was built during this gap between... Okay, well...
そのパネルの一つがこれ。
Bond took out another photo from his folder and pinned it next to the other two. It was another photo from the roof, this time taken during the day, not at night.
六本木ビルズが映ってますよね。建設中ですが。
The murmurs in the room grew even louder. Even Matsunaga was staring at the photo silently, a stern expression still plastered on his face.
コーネリアスタワーの完成は2001年。六本木ビルズの完成は2003年。
Wait, so is he saying that, like, the group dive incident happened, like, years ago? Is that what he's... But that... Wait, that would make sense, because then... Huh. I don't know.
タワー完成当時の写真では当然ながら六本木ビルズは建設中でまだ高さもほとんどない。
Or maybe the video doesn't actually show the group dive incident at all. Maybe it shows something completely different.
だが、集団ダイブが起きたのは今年2008年だ。映ってなきゃおかしいですよね。六本木ビルズ。ちなみに投稿映像に細工された形跡はなかった。
つまり何が言いたいんだ。
Matsunaga sounded impatient and annoyed.
非常に言いにくいんですが。
まさか先輩、この映像が撮られたのは2003年以前、つまり5年以上前って言いたいんですか？
Yeah, that's where it sounds like he's going with this. Hey, come on now, Sua. Bond's shoulders slumped. That was exactly what he was trying to say, and he couldn't help but be impressed by the young detective's intuition and sharp mind. But having somebody come out and say it so directly made him look like a lunatic. Bond's attempts to find the best way to phrase it had all come to naught.
バカバカしい。小説の読みすぎではないがね。映像に映っている被害者5人の顔は一致しているんだ。あれが5年前のもののはずがない。そんなつまらないことを調べている暇があったら、聞き込みの一つでもしたらどうだ、警部補。
ああ。
今のは聞かなかったことにする。それと後で話があるから会議が終わったら残りたまえ。
Damn. Bond sighed a little, gave up, and sat down. Well, he hadn't expected it to work in the first place. He lazily flapped his fan in front of his face, trying to tell himself he'd expected it to go this badly the whole time. Of course, Bond himself had no answer to the question of what Roppongi Bill's not being in the video meant. After I found out Nanami was alive, a doctor came and asked me some simple questions. The questions were to see if I was functioning well or not. I gave half-hearted answers as I decided to get out of the hospital before my mom came. I just embarrassed myself on national TV. How was I supposed to face my family? And if Nanami came, I was sure to start crying from sheer joy. And then Nanami would say, "Don't make a small amount of the disgusting breakfast they brought me." I slipped out of my room. I went down to the first floor and through the lobby. Since the hospital wasn't open, the outpatient hall wasn't packed with seniors like it usually was. When I got to the front door, I walked right out it. Fortunately, the automatic door opened just like it was supposed to. Leaving the hospital might get the doctors and nurses mad at me, but I could always go back here once everything had calmed down. I'd left a note for my mom telling her to pay my bill. That was good enough, right? I'd spent the night in the hospital, but physically there was nothing wrong with me, and mentally, knowing Nanami was safe had driven a lot of my depression away. I headed back to the base at top speed, being careful to make sure Yua and Shogun weren't waiting in ambush for me. I was back. My mental state was completely different than it was when I'd left. Now I felt great, of course. If anything, I wished I could speak to the me who'd left here yesterday. "You're about to get trolled." M9 emoji. "You don't need to worry so much. Nanami's fine, LOLOL. I'd say something like that. Yesterday had been really awful. Everything had been awful. It started with that weird call in the morning, then the earthquake. Then I'd lost the data on my hard drive. I'd had to witness ISA's suicide attempt up close. And then there was that email from Shogun, and he sent me a severed hand. A severed hand. The joy I was feeling faded instantly. I gulped and turned toward the fridge. The hand was still inside. Before I'd left, my head had been a total mess. The best idea I could come up with was to put it in the refrigerator. It might rot if I left it out. The blood smelled really bad, too. There were lots of sci-fi anime and movies where people lived for hundreds of years in cold sleep, right? It was kind of the same as that. Yesterday, I'd been really thinking that when Nanami was safe, if I'd kept her hand in good condition, maybe they could do an operation and put it back on. If that wasn't Nanami's hand, then whose was it? And how to explain the bangle and the phone? If I wasn't mistaken, those both belonged to Nanami. When I'd called Nanami's number, that phone had rung. Or maybe that was all part of Shogun's plan. Was it really possible to make such a perfect copy of her hand, though?
もう一度確かめてみるべきかも。
I really didn't want to, though. The severed hand was just disgusting. Just imagining it made me want to throw up, even if it was Nanami's. But I couldn't keep it in the fridge forever. I'd have nowhere to chill my soda. I thought about getting the cops to come get it. Then I remembered they thought I was the new gen killer. It would be suicide to call 110 and tell the operator, "Can you please come get this severed hand?" What should I do? Should I throw it away? But if it was Nanami's, it would be a bad idea to throw it away, right? Could you even put severed human hands in the garbage? Was that against the rules? If you could, would it be burnable garbage? Non-burnable garbage? I scratched at my head hard. There was no point in thinking about it. For now, I could start by taking another look at the bangle on the wrist and the phone in the hand. I could try and see if they were Nanami's or not. I stood in front of the fridge and grabbed the handle. I closed my eyes and took a few deep breaths. The idea of having Rimi come and open it for me crossed my mind. It was tempting, but I quickly discarded it. Even if Rimi was on my side, a human hand in a fridge would freak her out. She might decide to abandon me and turn me over to the police. I had to deal with this myself.
くそ。
I gritted my teeth. I took 2 more deep breaths. And then I pulled hard on the handle.
あれ
It wasn't there. I didn't see it at all. I remembered putting the hand in there yesterday. It was wrapped in aluminum foil. I'd put it on the top shelf, but there was no sign of it. The only things in the fridge were a few soda bottles and a few rotting oranges. Nothing more.
消えた。なんで
It had just disappeared. I crouched down and checked the back, too. It wasn't there. There wasn't that much else in the fridge. There was no way I could miss it.
昨日ここに入れたよな。
Or maybe I was only telling myself I'd done that, and I just left it where it was the whole time? I closed the fridge and looked around my garbage-filled room.
段ボールもない。
The big box with the hand inside. What had I done with it? I thought I remembered throwing it into a corner. My memories of last night weren't clear at all. So much had happened yesterday that it had overwhelmed my brain. Everything had been so crazy that I hadn't had time to think. Calm down, think. Get things straight in your head. Try to figure out why the hand that was there yesterday suddenly vanished. I booted up my PC's word processor and typed out all the possibilities I could think of. This is the first one that came to my mind. Number 3 here, Shogun took it. The base had been unlocked since yesterday. Anybody could have come in easily. Shogun had been able to, certainly. That's how he'd gotten the hand in here. Or was it number 2? My memories of what I'd done when I'd left to go to O-Front weren't clear at all. My desire to save Nanami, the images of the severed hand in my head, my fear of Shogun, all these emotions were swirling around in my head. They'd filled my brain way past full. I wasn't thinking clearly at all. It was even possible I'd unconsciously taken the hand out of my room and thrown it in the garbage somewhere. Or maybe it was just a delusion from the start and had never existed to begin with. But when I opened my email software, the message from Shogun was there. All that stuff about the present was just like I remembered it. Shogun had talked about it yesterday, too. It was hard to believe it was just my delusion. Could the media or the police have taken it? Those guys always looked down on otaku like me and treated us like dirt. They might actually do that. After what happened, I was afraid of looking at the internet, but still, I felt like I had to know. I opened my browser. I hit up my usual news sites, starting with the Taboo News section. As expected, there were countless articles about the incident in Scramble Crossing the other day. The airwave jacking psychic is the otaku version of the boy who cried wolf. The young new-gen boy's psychic power show ended in the worst possible way, as MHK, BTS, and TV Yuhi all ran specials on the earthquake that occurred in Shibuya on the 27th. TV Today and Mount Fuji TV ran live feeds of the event alongside their coverage starting at 9 p.m. Angry calls soon flooded in, however. Scramble Crossing was packed with approximately 5,000 fans who booed loudly for over an hour after the event ended with nothing happening. Some fans even started fights with each other, and 13 arrests were made. The incident began with a prank email from a self-proclaimed psychic that we'll be calling Boy N. His email declared that he would identify the killer behind the new-gen new generation madness. At first, the media was skeptical. However, when Yuri Brightman, 43, an American psychic investigator, sent a message claiming to be the boy's backer, TV Today and Mount Fuji TV came to believe in the lies he was telling. TV ratings were high, with both TV Today and Mount Fuji TV hitting over the 40% mark. These numbers exceed those of last year's Kohaku singing contest, which is typically the highest rated program in Japan. Of course, this was run alongside earthquake coverage, but in a ratings sense, the decision to cover the boy was the right one. Boyen, however, was no psychic. He excited the crowd by making it look like he would jump off the building several times, but his performance ended there. Frustrated reporters rushed to the roof and attempted to interview him about the New Gen case, but this too ended in failure. The boy had collapsed on the roof and was found in possession of a cosplay outfit from a popular Hollywood movie, as well as a so-called moe anime figurine. Yoshiro Hashiba, a professor at Meisei University, commented, "More and more young men these days are trying to be a hero without thinking of the trouble they're causing people around them. Video games and anime probably caused him to lose sight of the distinction between fiction and reality, and drove him to act in the way he did. He needs psychological care. This incident will go down as one of the stranger events in recent years." I had never emailed the media. I'd never seen Yuri Brightman's show. I'd never met him either, of course. What was going on? Had Shogun set this whole thing up? But why? What was he after? He was saying all that weird stuff about a quest. Why would he even bring in the media to put me on TV if he wanted to force me to get the D-Sword? I couldn't figure it out. What was Shogun trying to accomplish? He'd even let Nanami go. I followed the links and read a bunch of different articles, but none of them said anything about Shogun. There had been practically no time between when I'd body slammed into Shogun and when the media had showed up. Even if he'd managed to escape somehow, the media must have seen him. There was no way he could get out of there in such a short time, especially since he was in a wheelchair and couldn't walk. I looked at Atchan too. Of course, the place was in an uproar. Comment after comment was listing my real name. That uniform the Nishijo kid's wearing, is that a Suime uniform? Are there any Suime students in this thread? Boy, N, LOL, what a loser. Die in a fire. Nishijo, knock it the hell off. We otaku are gonna get more shit because of you. They found out what figure he was holding. It's Sera from Bloodtoon. Creepy little freak. Creepy otaku losers everywhere in tears. That Nishijo kid should have stayed a hikikomori instead of going on TV. Sera, Nishijo, you dork. I'll blow you away with my awakened rocket body blow. 579, already known. One of his classmates from last... Oh. They were all having their fun at my expense. They were making fun of me without having any idea about how I was feeling. That channel could be really scary when they didn't like you. This had all happened because of Shogun. I thought that maybe Atchan would have information that the media wasn't reporting, but that didn't seem to be the case. I couldn't find anywhere that talked about somebody besides me being up on the roof of O-Front. It was as if the person named Shogun had never even been there. Maybe what I'd seen hadn't been the real Shogun, but some kind of illusion. Even if Shogun was real, there was also the possibility that the figure in the wheelchair was just a hallucination I'd created.
僕はやっぱり病気なのかも。
So many impossible things were happening. It was like a video game. Maybe there was a world where Nanami was dead, and a world where she was alive. Maybe they were both parallel worlds, and I'd get to pick which one I wanted to live in. Maybe the future branched out endlessly, like the choices in an H game. What made me different from others was that I could see what happened if I picked the bad choice in my delusions. Like with Nanami's dying and Ayase's jumping, or how I'd fallen off the top of O-Front. In other words, all these awful things that seemed to happen to me specifically were just traps my own mind was setting for me. Part of me wanted to escape from my boring life, where every day was the same, and into an exciting world that was more like my video games. Hello, Cat. How are you doing today? My unconscious was just giving that to me in the form of delusions. No, that was impossible. I didn't want anything like what I was experiencing. I didn't want to experience anything scary or sad, whether it was real or not.
っていうか、どれだけ想像力豊かなんだよ。
All these ideas I just thought up were just stupid, childish delusions, weren't they? I sighed and leaned back in my chair, looking up at the ceiling. It was hard to tell what reality even was. It felt like everything was a lie, and my world an empty, hollow place. Nope. I mean, there have been a couple times where my viewer count went to 1, but it quickly went back to 0 again, so you're the first one on chat at least.
今日午後8時ごろ、渋谷区の渋谷川で女性の変死体が発見されました。被害者は江戸川区に住む十勝あやみさん27歳で、死因は喉を詰まらせたことによる窒息死とみられています。
Ayami Tokachi. I don't think we know any Ayami.
警察の調べによりますと、被害者の右手の肉が削り取られて骨が露出しており、また胃の中からは人間の肉とみられる内容物が見つかりました。
Well, there you go. That's whose hand it was that Shogun left at Takumi's place. Oh, You don't have. I mean, you don't have to watch if you don't want to.
被害者は自らの右手を噛みちぎって食べたとみられ、また足首が紐で縛られていたとのことです。警察では自殺・他殺の両面から捜査を進めています。
Ooh. Yeah, I figured Ox would have shown up by now at least, but nope. Ever since the Intensity 5 earthquake hit Shibuya, the atmosphere of the town had changed for the worse. Crime was way up, and it wasn't just kids getting into fights anymore. There was a huge increase in theft, particularly smash and grabs. The media was using the phrase "new generation" to inspire feelings of danger and claustrophobia. It had gotten so bad that some stores were shutting down until all this was over. The weekly anti-New Gen protests had suddenly turned into riots. A huge horde of people had descended on the Shibuya police station. They'd clashed with the police and over 100 people had been arrested. Alrighty, well, I appreciate your commitment, Cat. Just like they had with the Psychic Boy, thousands of people had appeared out of nowhere to watch and enjoy the show. There was a huge, clearly visible difference between the people who were visiting Shibuya and the ones who lived there. The former type was hoping for more fun and excitement. The latter were suffering miserably from the lawlessness in the ward and begging for more police crackdowns. And then, as if to make things even worse, the 6th New Gen incident happened. Of course, they hadn't caught the killer. A week had passed since the earthquake. Sometime in the past few days, the school had sent me notice that I was suspended. Even if I hadn't been suspended, I wasn't in a mental state where I could go to class. Another New Gen incident had happened the day after the earthquake. Just like Dr. Takashina's death, it was clearly intended as a message to me. A woman who'd chewed off her own right hand. It had to be a reminder of how Nanami's right hand had been severed. Even if... Bro, wait. Are you telling me it's not occurring to him that her hand is the one that was in that box? Okay, whatever. Even if what had happened with Nanami was just Shogun screwing with me, the thought that she could have been killed like that was terrifying. Besides that, I was now famous in a bad way and terrified of leaving the house. If I had the option of going to live in a cave somewhere, I would have taken it. Even going to the convenience store to get food was painful. Some days I'd eaten nothing at all. I couldn't walk with my head held up while I was outside. It always felt like somebody was laughing at me. I was scared of other people looking at me. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Some people from the media came by several times, but I ignored all of them. I hadn't called home or talked to Nanami. I even quit ESO for the time being. If somehow somebody found out that I was Nightheart, that would just be awful. A week? Was that enough time for things to calm down? Or not enough? There used to be a saying that rumors would last for 75 days, but that was a long time ago. Trends changed incredibly fast now. Popular phrases would be completely forgotten by the following year. Slang that everybody used online would be dead and forgotten in months. Every day the TV was in search of heroes, idols, and villains to consume and then discard. Even with New Gen, by the time of the 6th murder, that channel wasn't nearly as excited as they'd been during the first. Everything disappeared from people's memories so fast. I hoped that, like those other trends and fads, what had happened a week ago had faded completely from people's minds. It was overly optimistic, but I couldn't help but hope anyway. My head and stomach hurt. I sat down on my usual bench to calm myself down. I knew exactly what Seiretan would say if I asked her.
そんなに苦しむぐらいならもう学校になんか行くのやめればいいっしょ。
I was starting to think she'd be right. I'd heard that a lot of students were starting to stay home because of how bad the crime in Shibuya was getting. And I'd always said it never really mattered if I graduated. I was willing to drop out of school right now, actually. But still, I was going to school anyway, even if it meant potentially running into Yua. I gulped down the soda I'd bought from a nearby vending machine and stood up from the bench. Well, Kat, if you were to read a visual novel, could you tell me what kind of visual novel you would want to read? Just curious. It was time to stop lying to myself. I didn't want to go to school, but I didn't want to drop out either. If I did, I'd never see Rimi again. Right now, since we were classmates, I could see her whenever I went to school. But if we lost that connection, of course, I could call her or go to see her directly, but that required active effort on my part. It wouldn't just happen. And an active effort like that was beyond me too. Bro, why? Like, why is it so hard to, like, go over to somebody's place? Yeah. A comedy? Oh. You might have liked the visual novel I did before this one then, but you are just too late, I'm afraid. Well, actually, I say that, but I don't know. There was some pretty raunchy stuff in that visual novel too, so maybe not appropriate for someone your age, but In fact, I hadn't seen Remy in a long time. Oh yeah, speaking of which, we don't even know what's going on with Fess or ISA. Like they haven't mentioned anything about her since she went to the hospital. So who knows what's going on with her now?
私が一緒にいてあげる。
Oh no. He's not gonna start like resenting Remy now, is he? Because he hadn't seen her for a while, so he's gonna like take it as like she's trying to avoid him or whatever. That's what she'd promised me, but she hadn't contacted me in over 10 days. Maybe she'd seen me embarrass myself on TV and decided she never wanted to talk to me again. The thought made me so scared, so sad, and so lonely. Nobody, not even Nanami, came to see me. The internet was saying the most horrible things about me. And Yua and Shogun were still out there, waiting for me. I said I didn't want to talk to anybody, but the loneliness was killing me. I wanted Remy to come see me. I wanted her to hold me gently and tell me she was there for me. I was probably relying on her too much, but it was her fault. The one who taught me how warm 3D girls could be was Remy. Once I'd known that warmth, I wanted to experience it again and again. The peace it had given me was something I couldn't get from 2D or delusions anymore. Delusions weren't enough to keep me going. I needed to see Remy. Ugh. I can relate to what he's feeling there. When I got to school, nothing much seemed to have changed. In fact, nobody noticed me. I went inside and up the stairs. I passed by a girl I'd never met who gave me a gasp and a look of pity. Who is Remy? She's that pink-haired girl they were just showing. She's friends with Takumi. When I got to the hallway outside my class, where several of the windows were broken, I could hear whispers and see people openly gawking at me. Yeah, it's chapter 7 now. I had a bad feeling. My optimistic hopes that I'd been forgotten were about to be utterly dashed. Still, I opened the door, desperate to see Remy. She's not gonna be there, I bet. There was silence for 10 seconds or so. Everybody was staring at me, and they were frozen perfectly still. I quietly walked to my seat and sat down. A DQN-looking boy in the last row, I didn't know his name, was the first to speak.
おい西条、超能力見せてくんね。
The rest of the class suddenly unfroze.
それ言ったらかわいそうじゃね。だってユーリが認めた男なんだぜ。 そうそう、俺テレビ見てたぜ。すげえよ、あのやらせ超能力者。
西条もどうせやらせなんでしょ。
大きい人形と小さいお人形を抱えてただけだもんね。
Wait. Okay, the little doll, I'm assuming they're talking about the Sera figure, but what... Wait, what was the big doll? He was... I don't remember him having anything other than that Sera figure.
やめとけって。西条は病気なだけだっつうの。そっとしといてやれ。だってあいつ空飛べるらしいじゃん。あとなんだっけ、投資。
私投資されたらどうしよう。服もスケスケで裸見られる。
You would like that, wouldn't you?
西条変態じゃん。
お、やっべ、こっち見た。石にされる前に目をそらせ。大丈夫、実際のところただの肝だから。
Oh no. This was what I'd been most afraid of. The DQNs had made me their target. Not a single person had forgotten what had happened a week ago. I was Japan's most famous living joke. The boy who told the whole world he had psychic powers, only to pass out holding an anime figurine. There was no point in telling them I wasn't psychic. The truth didn't even matter anymore. The whole country already had their own story about what the truth was, and it was shared by tens of millions of people. You know, I hate to say it, but it's kind of weird how this visual novel is like so accurately describing the United States as it is right now. It's actually pretty fucking sad, but you know. Oh, I'm sorry, Kat. I didn't mean to. I just said that without even thinking. Nobody could change that now. Nobody. Not me, not the media, not even Shogun. I was the fake, self-proclaimed psychic with mental problems. I was the loser otaku creep. Nobody in the world was on my side. I hated how TV always made fun of otaku, but now I'd personally done something to damage otaku culture's reputation. I didn't have any psychic powers. I couldn't fly. I didn't have supernatural sight. I didn't have telepathy. I couldn't even get the D-sword. I was just a failure. A boy who'd given up on trying to save his sister. I was just an otaku who knew about games and anime, and nothing else. I was helpless to change any of this. I looked around for Rimi, trying to keep my mind from breaking down right then and there. Suddenly, my eyes met Misumi. He quickly turned away from me. Of course, that's what he'd do. If he was friends with me, he'd be an outcast from the class. Yeah, of course. It was the most natural thing in the world. An otaku like me and a handsome boy like him lived in totally different worlds. It was honestly strange we'd been friends at all. I looked around, trying not to cry, desperately searching for Rimi, but she wasn't here. Rimi wasn't here. Why? Why was she not here today? Today of all days? Now I had no way of contacting her. If she never came back to this classroom, I'd never be able to see her again. That's how it felt. That's how it had been when she'd appeared, too. One day, she was suddenly here. And now, she was suddenly gone. Could it be that she was caught up in the earthquake and killed? I tried as hard as I could to push the negative thoughts from my mind, but it didn't work. I started feeling more and more depressed. Gloomy, dark delusions were filling my heart. Did a girl named Rimi Sakihata even exist? Was it possible that she was just like Seiraton? A personality I'd created in my delusions? Bro, that would be fucked up. What if she actually... What if the demon girl, like his first impression of her, was like the real Rimi, and then the Rimi that was like after that was all just fake, like a delusion, like he's saying. That would be so fucked up. It would make a lot of sense if that was the case. She was always there just when I needed her. She was always kind to me, even though I was such a loser. Could somebody like that, my ideal 3D girl, always there when I needed her, really exist? I didn't have any reason to come to school anymore. My one reason had disappeared. I was alone after all. I'd been alone the whole time. I cried. I cried inside my heart. I just barely managed to avoid crying in the real world, too. That is true. I'll just call you FC, I guess, since that's the first two letters in your name. That is true, actually, FC. It is constantly making me try to think of, like, all the different... Like, yeah, I don't know if I've ever read a story that, like, made you question what's real in the story and what's not, like, this much. It's pretty crazy. My pride wouldn't allow it. It was a tiny, worthless pride, but it existed. Slumped down, gritting my teeth. It was all I could do to not fall out of my chair. I could hear my classmates talking, even though I didn't want to. I wanted to run away, but I was too scared. Running might only attract even more of their attention. I wished all of them would just die. If I didn't have anything left to lose, then maybe I should end my life doing what I wanted. I tried killing them all in my brain to see if it would make me feel better, but it didn't. It wasn't enough to avenge my humiliation. They were still looking at me too, taunting me with voices so loud they echoed throughout the entire class.
お前なんで死なないの？生きてんのきつくね？俺ら手伝ってやろうか。
I put my hands tight over my ears and tried my best to endure their taunts. I wanted to kill them. I wanted to murder them all with my D-sword. I imagined my blade splitting open their heads, ripping out their hearts, and splitting their bodies in two. Die. Die. Die! Die! I didn't have a D-sword, but I could buy a big kitchen knife anywhere. I wanted to stamp out their worthless maggot lives myself. And the more I thought about it, the stronger the desire became. The instant I did something that crazy, maybe the world would be reset. Then the world my brain was showing me now, where I'd made a wrong choice and gotten onto the bad route, would end. And then I'd go back to my old world. Rimi would be there. Misumi would still talk to me. Everybody would forget about how I'd embarrassed myself. Nobody would make fun of me. Maybe I should try it. My head was starting to feel fuzzy, and I was having trouble concentrating. Maybe I had a fever. Was my head overheating from thinking too much? Or from too many delusions? I didn't know if you could do that. Well, whatever. Maybe I should try it. If I couldn't go back to my old world, they'd just think I was crazy. No, they already thought that. If I had nothing left to lose, then did it even really matter? A week ago, when the nurse had told me Nanami was alive, I thought that was all I needed. I thought that if Nanami was alive, nothing else mattered. My life didn't matter. I didn't care if they thought I was crazy and sent me to the hospital. I hoped it was the same hospital as Ayase. Where did she end up anyway? That prison-like hospital she'd supposedly been in before? Even that would be preferable. It'd be at least a little better than being at school without Rimi. The impulse to do something awful was boiling up like magma, and I was losing my capacity to control it. I slowly stood up. The laughter started bubbling up, and I couldn't stop it. The whole class was staring at me, their expressions frozen on their faces. Don't look at me. I'm not worth looking at. And suddenly, Is that Sarah? I heard a girl's voice. Oh wait, it's not the transfer student, is it? I guess it could be. No, it sounds too much like Seraton. And it sounded like an anime girl too.
この前飛び降り自殺をしようとした人を助けたのは西条くんだもん。だから西条くんにはたくさん価値はあるよ。
Who was that? Who was speaking to me? I looked around the classroom again. Everyone was still frozen silent at my strange behavior. I couldn't see anyone speaking. And anyway, that voice, it felt strange, like it was coming from directly inside my head. Was I hearing things? Or had I created another girl in my delusions?
幻聴なんかじゃないのら。
Nora? Okay, wait, Sarah didn't ever say Nora, did she? I think so.
妄想でもない？
Huh? What was that? There was an answer to what I just thought. Were they reading my mind? No. It must be a delusion after all.
コズピーはここにいるよ。
コズピーってなんだよ。ここってどこ？誰なの？
I yelled. My classmates practically ran to get away from me.
西条くんに価値がないなんて、そんなの全然違う。
There was no answer to my question. The strange voice was continuing.
むしろ西条くんのことをひどく言うクラスのみんなの方が価値がないから。
I shivered. The voice kept talking in that happy, chipper tone, and this was the next thing it said.
いいと思うなら殺しても？
Please stop it. I sat back down in my chair, leaning forward with my head in my hands. The world didn't reset. I didn't go back to a parallel world with Remy in it. Let's see, parallel world. Yeah, I think we could figure that. Instead, it looked like I'd gone totally insane. Man, we are digging deeper and deeper into the hole here. When Bond came back to Freesia's office for the first time in a week, things looked a little different. The piles of papers on the desk were nowhere to be seen. They'd probably all fallen over during the earthquake, and Momose had ordered them cleaned up. The place looked a lot nicer now, actually. Bond sighed and sat down in the chair he'd dragged over from one of the desks. He waved his fan in front of his face, exhausted. Momose was in front of him, typing into her laptop. She looked up at the gloom on his face and furrowed her brow.
なに？ 来るなりため息なんてついて。
Dude, you just slept through Takumi going completely fucking insane? Oh, I'm sorry, Cat. I just did it again. Good lord. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's a habit. It's hard for me to turn that off.
Ah, Momo-chan. 何にもないとこから剣が出てくるって手品見たことあるかい？
さあ、手品なんて詳しくないから。
Wait, a magic trick for somebody who makes up a sword up here? Wait. Oh, yeah, that's right, because he saw the video with Sena. Yeah, forgot about that.
瞬間移動は？
箱の中に入ってとかそういうこと？
いや、そうじゃなくて。
一体何が言いたいわけ？宴会芸でも覚えたいの？
わかんねえならいいんだ。多分関係ないことだからさ。
変な人ね。
Momose shrugged and popped the sweet kintsuba cake that Bon had brought into her mouth.
どうぞお茶っす。
Suwa brought over 2 paper cups. Steam was pouring off the green tea within them.
あら悪いわね、スワちゃん。お茶組なんてさせちゃって。今日みほちゃん風邪で休んでて。
いや、大丈夫っす。
He gave her a brilliant smile as he handed the cups to her and Bon. Suwa had come here before when he and Bon had been working on a different case. Ever since then, he'd looked up to Momose as his teacher, more than he looked up to his partner, Bon. Momose seemed to like the young, hard-working Suwa, and wasn't as harsh with him as she was with Bon.
それより何の話してたんすか？
どうやったら父兄に受ける宴会芸を覚えられるかって相談をな。
はあ、そりゃ興味深いっす。
Yeah, he's trying to keep this stuff secret from Suwa, so.
スワちゃん、こんなダメ刑事なんかといつまでもつるんでちゃダメよ。もっと優秀な上司に就くのおすすめするわ。でないとあなたの出世街道が断たれちゃう。
まるで俺が出世絶望的みてえな言い方だな。
事実でしょ。悔しかったらもっと真面目に仕事しなさい。
してるんだがな。
Bon seemed unsatisfied, but Momose ignored him and offered Suwa the box of kintsuba cakes.
スワちゃんも食べて。
あ、どうもっす。
言っとくが、それは俺が自腹で買ってきたもんだぞ。
先輩、いただきます。
As Suwa reached for a kintsuba cake, Bon let out another sigh.
それより二人ともこれを見て。
The laptop was showing a line graph. The line was like a wave, slowly going up and down. Suwa walked around behind Bon and looked down at the screen, confused.
これ、何のグラフっすか？
ここ1年の渋谷近辺の G レートよ。おかしいと思わない？
渋谷の平均 G レートが世界的に見ても高いってのはももちゃんに教えてもらったんだぜ。
そうじゃなくて気のせいかもしれないけど、 G レートが何者かによって操作されてるような気がするの。
Yeah, it's that Nozomi organization, whatever they are.
そんなことできるんすか？
さあ、でもグラフを見るとなんだか不自然なのよね。数値が小刻みに変動しすぎてる。10年ぐらい前まで遡って調べてみたんだけど、ここ5年ぐらいはずっとそんな調子なのよ。
前に太田教授だっけか、その人が言ってたなんだっけ、 G レートが半年前から増加してるとかなんだが、その辺と関係あるのかい？
If you're gonna go through some of the routes, you gonna like Momose. Oh. Well, yes. Anytime I do a visual novel, I do all the routes, so yeah.
太田教授の調査では G レートはそんなに細かい変動は起こさないっていうことなのよ。
Oh, does she? Hmm.
何らかの異常が起こってて、そこに人為的なものを感じるってことか。
でも5年っすよ。それだけ続いてれば異常じゃなくて正常な状態と言えなくもないんじゃないですか？
もう一つあるの。グラフを細かく調べていくと G レートは毎週末に伸びる傾向にあるのよ。
Going through them won't take more than 3 to 4 hours? Oh, really? Usually, like, I don't know, usually in my experience with visual novels, I mean, every route you go through takes probably at least like 8 hours, maybe? I mean, that's with like skipping through all the already read text and everything, so yeah.
週休2日のサラリーマンにはありがたいこったな。俺には関係ねえけど。
ああ、土日に休み欲しいっすね。自分もう2ヶ月休みなしっすよ。
Good lord, these people don't have any lives. Momose shook her head a little at the two detectives, who both suddenly had gloomy looks on their faces.
茶化してる場合じゃないわ。1週間ごとに定期的に変動してるのよ。しかも年末年始やお盆休みなんかは変動がピタリと止まる。
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to go through the first playthrough like without delusions, just to kind of set like a baseline of like what I guess I mean I don't know if the game uses them to mess with your head and make you think more. Oh. Well. Yeah, I didn't even know, like, the game never explained what that stuff was supposed to be anyway, so
何かの意志が働いているとしか思えないわ。
年末年始やお盆休みがあるのって人間だけだよな。動物や植物はそんなもんあるわけねえもんな。
実は地球の意志とか。
地球の意志？ずいぶん壮大な話だな。だが、もし仮にそんなもんがあったとして、地球が明けましておめでとうとか言うかや。
冗談っすよ。
年末年始はともかく、お盆休みは日本にしかない風習よね。
日本人の社会活動と同期しすぎてるか。
渋谷っすから当然なんじゃ。
ちなみにこことここ見て。
Momose pointed to a spot in the middle of the graph, and then another at the very far right. The latter was the last day shown.
この2箇所はすごく伸びているでしょ。
一番右はこの1年の最高記録みたいだな。
1年どころかこの10年で最高よ。
日付は？
真ん中は3ヶ月前。覚えてる？小さな地震があったでしょ。
ああ、震度3でなぜか8人も死んだ。あれか。あの犠牲者ってなんで死んだのか理由はまだ特定できてないんじゃなかったか？
そうでしたっけ？
Momose ignored the two detectives and continued.
で、一番右はこの間の地震の日。
Yeah.
おお。
あの日、大規模な電磁波が発生したのは知ってるわよね。
渋谷中のコンピューターが壊れたらしいな。俺はアナログ人間だからよくわからんな。
自分も自宅のノーパソがやられたっす。普及してる暇がなくて。
あれは地震の影響で電磁波が起きたって言われてるけど、真相は全く逆かもしれない。電磁波の影響で地震が起きた。
Okay. I see.
おいおい、そんなことテレビや新聞じゃ言ってなかったぞ。
あくまで私の推測だけど、この2つの地震は天災じゃなくて人災かもって思ってるの。だってどっちも普通じゃないもの。前の地震では 震度3っていう規模なのに8人も亡くなってるし、そして今回は震度5で118人。
死にすぎって言いたいのか。
Yeah, it really doesn't. Like, there's no way a 5.0 earthquake should kill over 100 people.
さっきバンちゃん言ったでしょ。亡くなった方の大半は死因が不明って。そんなの尋常じゃないわ。
まあ確かに。
それに空が白く染まったっていう噂もある。
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna go back through and play through it again, and we'll do the delusions then, so...
そういえば時間が経つにつれて全く報道されなくなったな。
マスコミに何らかの圧力があったのかもね。
まさか。
明和党か。
おそらくそうよ。
マジっすか？
明和党とつながりのある企業団体を洗うべきかもな。
もうやったわよ。
さすがももちゃん、相変わらず仕事早いね。で、
Momose raised up her hands and stretched. She tilted her head a little, and you could hear the sound of her neck popping.
それらしい当たりはなし。お手上げよ。
お手上げってももちゃん。
やっぱももちゃんさんの推測が間違いなんじゃ。
そうかもしれないわね。
Yeah.
「これでも結構時間かけて調べたのよ。本業そっちのけでね。
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I've come across a visual novel that didn't have an option to skip text that you've already read. Like, I think every visual novel I played has had that. So, yeah, that would be really surprising if they didn't have that.
でも行き詰まっちゃったわ。よほど巧妙に隠されているか。スワちゃんの言う通り、私の推測が見当外れでしかないのか。
こういう時は別の方向から攻めてみるってのがデカの鉄則だぜ。
先輩、なんか心当たりあるんすか？
Bond stopped waving himself with his fan and licked his lip.
週末に G レートが上がって得するやつって誰なんだろうな。
The strange voice had stopped, but I couldn't take being in the classroom anymore. I stayed in the bathroom for hours until afternoon classes were over. The only reason I didn't go straight home was that I was still hopeful I might see Remy. Generic skip button, we got auto skip button that stops skipping when there's stuff you need for the other routes. I think, I mean, well, okay, I guess I kind of see what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, I think like most, if not all, of the visual novels I played before, when you're skipping, it'll still stop like on a choice that you have to make. But it works a little differently in this visual novel because it's not choices you're specifically making, but rather the, the delusion trigger thing. So after school ended and everyone had gone home, I went back into the empty classroom. Yeah, I don't know how like bro, if somebody actually did what Takumi just did in the middle of the classroom just now, like he wouldn't be able to just like go off into the bathroom and hide somewhere like the staff or somebody at the school would be trying to get him some kind of help or trying to get him to a mental hospital or something. Like there's no way he could just walk away from that and like nothing happened. Oh, really? Oh, okay. I don't know what visual novels you've played, Soraru, but well, okay, actually, there was one visual novel I played like a really long time ago that might have been like that. But it was a throwaway visual novel, honestly. It wasn't I don't even know if there was like it was like a one of the big visual novel companies that made this one. It was probably some like small time group or whatever. Rimi was waiting there. She turned to me and smiled.
石どこ行ってたの？待ってたんだよ。
Wait, what?
一緒に帰ろっか、タク。
Okay, this is just a delusion here, right? I thought maybe she'd be there to say that to me. I hoped that maybe somehow that would happen. But the classroom was empty. Nobody was waiting for me. I tried going to the courtyard. This was where Rimi had said she'd be with me. But now there was nobody here. Nothing moved but the lonely purple blooms in the flower beds, which swayed in the cold autumn wind. I took out the red handkerchief from my bag. It was the one Rimi had given me. I tried sniffing it, but the floral smell was gone. Maybe it had disappeared when I'd washed it that one time. I had the handkerchief, but the scent was gone. I had the memories, but Rimi was gone. I was out here, wishing to meet a girl who maybe only existed in my head.
なんて
Tell you what, though, if Rimi really was a delusion, which I don't think she is, but if she was, like, that would have to be a really deep delusion because, like Misumi was in on that shit too. Remember when Misumi was saying like, "Oh, dude, like you, me and Rimi here have been your friends and shit." So I mean, like, he would have had to like had to his delusions would have had to impact Misumi as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I was wandering the school after classes were over.
なんて救いようがないんだ。僕って。
With a girl's handkerchief up against my lips. I was so creepy. I wanted to throw up. I left the school and started to wander around the city with no real goal in mind. I just stopped caring about everything. I wasn't even worried that Shogun or Yua might find me anymore. If anything, I was hoping they'd just kill me, preferably in a way that wasn't painful. My mood was one of complete depression. And seeing the way Central Shibuya looked right now only made me feel worse. Nobody had a smile on their face. Everyone was glaring at the people around them. It felt like a fight could break out at any minute. Just by walking around, I could see that some of the shops that would normally be bustling with customers had actually lowered their shutters all the way. And I couldn't be sure, but it looked like there were fewer cars, too. Even the loud TVs in front of the station were silent. Instead, there was the distant howling of police sirens, angry horns, and screeching tires. There were no traces of the mess I'd caused last week. Even if it wasn't gone from individuals' memories, maybe it had long since vanished from the memories of the town. I wished I could forget the memories myself. To know nothing, to be ignorant, to be stupid. That must be really nice.
無知は罪だ。知らない方が幸せなこともあるという人間もいるが、そんなのはただの甘えだ。
That's what Sena had said. But what's wrong with being naive? I wasn't that strong. I was always looking for someone else to help me. I couldn't do anything on my own. I didn't want to do anything. I stood in the middle of the street and closed my eyes. My biggest problem right now was that I knew some things, but not everything. I knew about things like Shogun and the D-Sword, things I didn't even want to know. But if somebody asked me what they were, I couldn't explain. I didn't have the answers. Maybe I should just die, I thought to myself as I looked up at the O-front. If you die, are your memories reset so you can play again? Tell me, person controlling me. Your role-playing has failed completely this game. You leveled up all the wrong stats for your character. You should have made him more like a hero. Somebody who was social and outgoing, kind to women, a friend to the weak and a foe to the strong. Somebody with a sense of justice who could choose between right and wrong. You won't be able to beat the last boss with me. You won't be able to beat the game. Don't have any hopes for me. Reset the game. Please. I'm worthless. delete me. But I wasn't deleted. Instead, somebody slammed into my shoulder.
Oi! 邪魔なんだよ。
I thought I was hallucinating again. This morning I'd hallucinated a girl's voice, so now it was a man's voice maybe. Nobody wanted to hear a man's voice. Give me something moe, something hot. And then have her whisper naughty things into my ear, and I'll get a boner even though I'm in the middle of town.
無視してんじゃねえぞ。
なあてめえ、西条だな。
どうなんだ、やらせ超能力少年。
この前テレビ出てたよな。ギャラいっぱいもらったんだろ。
ちょっと顔貸せよ、エスパー君。
I opened my eyes. There were 3 men surrounding me. They were all wearing baggy clothes. They had gold, silver, and brown hair. 2 of them had piercings in their ear and nose. One just had piercing in his ears. They were stereotypical thugs, dressed like something you would have seen years ago. If anything, they belonged in a museum. Well, there's the death flag. Or was this another thing where I was experiencing the bad route that came after I made the wrong choice? The bad stuff just kept coming. I don't even care anymore. Just kill me, so I can be reset and reborn. Do you have a knife on you or something? When you stab me, make sure I die instantly, okay? I was so scared my knees were shaking. I shouted out of pure instinct. It was closer to a scream than a shout, but I didn't care. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I lied when I said I didn't care. I know things are bad, but I don't want to die. One put a hand over my mouth so I couldn't scream, and then the other 2 grabbed my arms. I stopped resisting. They took me to an empty alleyway. As they grinned at me, I decided to launch a preemptive attack.
許して。
I got down on my knees and begged in a shaky voice.
お金なら全部渡すから。それで見逃してください。
I offered them my wallet. One of the DQNs snatched it out of my hands.
お前金持ちだな。さすが超能力少年だぜ。お前、いいやつじゃん。俺気に入っちゃったよ。
I let out a sigh of relief as I kneeled on the ground. It looked like they were going to let me go.
俺らの仲間に入れてやるよ。入会金は100万円な。これ強制。本当はすぐ払ってもらうとこだけどよ。今日の夜までにしてやるよ。まあ、なんか超能力使って見せてくれたら半額にしてやってもいいけどな。
なんか言えよ。
超能力見せろっつってんだよ。
できねえの。
できねえのかっつってんだよ。
I felt a sharp pain in my side. I might have broken a rib. I couldn't breathe. I was passing out. I was feeling dizzy. Then I saw the foot of the DQN in front of me. It was coming toward my face at incredible speed. What happened? It felt like there was an incredible pain in my face, but maybe it was a delusion. I tried to open my eyes, but my eyelids wouldn't move. The darkness wouldn't go away.
んだよ、もう伸びたのか？
どうする？このくらいにしとく？
もうちょっと痛みつけといた方がいいんじゃね？あのダーススパイダーの兄ちゃんもそう言ってたじゃん。
Wait, really? So Shogun is like hiring people to beat Takumi up now? Dude, what the fuck is Shogun's deal? Like, I don't even get why he's doing this shit anymore.
ボコボコにしてくれって言ってた。
こいつボコるだけで金くれるなんて、よっぽどこいつのこと嫌いなのかもな。
というわけなんで、続きまーす。
俺らのこと恨まないでね。
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want to kill you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want to kill you.
おい、何土地狂ってんだよ。ふざけんなよ。なんだそれ。おい、よせ。やめろ。やめて。やだ。
Bro, what even is going on now? He just keeps getting sent to the hospital over and over again. Now we're in a hospital room where fucking Shogun in it. Bro, what the fuck? This is ridiculous. The weak light of the setting sun was pouring through the window of the hospital room. The color of sunset split the room cleanly between light and shadow. Inside the light was a bed with pure white sheets, a portable gaming system sitting by the pillow, rows of academic books sitting on a shelf, light pink cosmos flowers sitting in a vase. The room was neat and organized. Nothing moved. It was a room where time had stopped. Shit. Near the window, where the sunlight shone through, there was someone small, sitting in a wheelchair. His back was to the window, and he wasn't moving. His breathing was so gentle and deep that you'd wonder if he might be dead. His skin was wrinkled, his cheeks caved in. His eyes sank deep into his skull. He had no hair at all on his head. Looking at him, it was unclear if he was a boy or an old man. The shadow of the one who called himself Shogun stretched all the way to the room's door. For the first time, the world moved. The door slowly opened, and someone came from the dark hallway into the evening light. Rimi Sakihata stood at the entrance to the room. She didn't come in any further. Okay, yeah. I did say I didn't think Rimi was a delusion, so... The setting sun illuminated her face, revealing the tension in her expression.
もうやめよう。残念だけど、あの彼は、西条匠は消すべきだよ。
Shogun didn't respond to her words at all.
どうして？
危険だから。
There was a sadness and pain in her voice. She may not have realized it, but there were tears in her eyes.
私が消そうか。
ダメだよ。
Rimi couldn't tell if his lips were even moving.
彼にはやってもらわなくちゃいけないことがあるんだ。
Rimi's head slumped forward. Her hair fell forward along with it, and she brushed it back with her fingers.
例えば、あなたは夢に見たことを覚えていられる？そっか。私、すぐ忘れちゃうんだ。
できる人とできない人がいる。
できる人はきっとロマンチストなんだね。
すごく長い夢をよく見るよ。見ている間は何年にも感じられる。
私もそうだった。そうだった気がする。でも、それは幻。実際の時間としては、寝ているうちのほんの2、3秒程度のものなんだって、夢って。
That's actually not true. Dreams actually last about the exact same amount of time that they seem to last as you're dreaming them, so.
心の高田なの。だから、早く目覚めて。でないと、いつか。
Wait, what? Wake up soon.
あなたは、西条匠に殺されちゃう。
Oh, okay.
それでも構わないよ。夢から覚めるわけにはいかない。この夢は完結させなくちゃ。
完結した夢の後には何が残るの？
Okay. Well, hate to say it, but it looks like Takumi's first impression of Rimi was the right one. Rimi is working for fucking Shogun. In fact, probably the Rimi that has been acting like his friend was really just his delusion. That's just crazy, man. Wow. Alright, I think we'll go for a little bit longer and then I'm gonna probably end the stream, so. Someone softly shook my shoulders. It was a very hesitant shake, and after the one time they quickly pulled away. Someone was peering into my face. At least that's what it felt like. I was slowly beginning to wake up. As I did, the pain came back to me. Something stunk. Bad. It was a strong, raw scent. The scent of blood. The area around my upper lip stung. It was a metallic taste all throughout my mouth. I slowly opened my eyes. The foreign exchange girl? You're telling me she's the one who saved him? I was in the alley I'd been in a moment ago. I was lying face down on the asphalt. Right in front of me was a pool of dark brown water that looked like it had dripped out of a garbage bag. I winced at the awful stench and stood up. My whole body ached. The area around my face hurt the most. It was hot and stinging, like someone had brought a lighter right up close to my face. There was a girl leaning down right next to me, looking at me like she was about to cry. It was the transfer student, the girl who'd transferred into my class. What was her name again? Orihara? What was she doing here? She offered me something. My wallet? Why did she have it? I looked around, still feeling woozy. The 3 DQNs who'd been hassling me were lying on the ground, covered in blood. What the hell had happened here? They'd gotten the crap kicked out of them. All of their faces were so smashed in I could barely recognize them. Were they dead? They weren't moving at all. Was this the 7th New Gen incident? Who could have done this? Was it me? Did I do it? The transfer student stood up and beckoned to me, her face pale. She kept looking at me, and then the 3 men on the ground, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. And then suddenly, she grabbed my hand and started to run. When we got out to the main street, she finally let go. We hadn't run that far, but she was already exhausted. We both fell silent. Maybe she was like me and not really good at talking to other people. No, that didn't matter right now. What was going on here? Those 3 DQNs had picked a fight with me and were beating me up. I must have passed out. I wondered how long I was lying there. There it is again. I was hearing it again. I thought that maybe somebody I knew was close by and talking to me, but I couldn't see anybody else around. Crap. Why was I suddenly hearing things? Maybe my brain had been pushed so close to the brink that I had to make another personality to survive? Maybe I did have you a person. Good lord, I can't even read right now. Maybe I did have multiple personalities, like Yua said? I'd heard once before that normally different personalities couldn't communicate with each other. Maybe I was the exception? I was getting so tired of this. Was I eventually going to start hearing the voices of other personalities too, besides this obnoxious Kozupi one? How many personalities were inside me anyway? I'd read in some book that there was a patient with 24 personalities somewhere in America. And what was more, I didn't even know if my personality was the primary one. A different personality might be the actual owner of Takumi Nishijo's body. As I stood there in shock, the transfer student poked me. As she did, she tried to whisper something, but seemed to fail. Instead, she nervously raised her hand. Kozue Orihara. I vaguely remembered hearing the name a long time ago from Misumi. Kozupi. No way. So, You're sending this voice directly inside my head? She nodded again and again, as hard as she could. Zane! Welcome back, dude. It's been over a week.
テレパシー。
仕組みはよくわかんないのら。でもできるの。
Dude, Zane, you have missed so much since you last were on my stream that this is like a completely different story now than what you knew back when you were watching. Like, bro. Thank you, Zane. Happy New Year. Yeah. Yeah, we've had quite a bit happen in the VTuber world since you've been gone. I guess the first big thing was, as you've probably, I imagine you've probably heard, Nazuna left V Shoujo. So, yeah, I don't know. The Nazuna thing is weird because I guess she's like just full blown going with her, like, her, indie VTuber personality now. The, Mike Neko thing. So, yeah, I think that's kind of weird that she ended up choosing the Mike Neko over Nazuna, but looks like that's what happened. Pretty big blow to V Shoujo, I would say. Because think about it, like V Shoujo had a reputation for being the company that pulled all the people that graduated from other companies in. But it's like, well, what good is that if they just end up leaving like a year later, right? It's like, I don't know, I feel like that kind of blows a hole in V Shoujo's mystique. You know? And then, yeah, of course, Pamu is leaving Niji-Sanji. It was funny because that was like the very first thing I saw when I woke up, when I pulled up Facebook after I woke up that morning. Because, like, yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't really watch Niji-Sanji that much, but Pamu was probably, like, I think Pamu was really, like, the first Niji-Sanji VTuber that I really kind of took notice of. I mean, her leaving is definitely a big blow to Niji. Yeah, I didn't expect it either. I was not expecting Pamu to graduate. Her leaving Niji-Sanji is just such a big blow to the English branch. And then if Selene leaves, then it's like, you know, forget about it. Niji-Sanji English is done if Selene leaves. I mean, they are definitely on the downslope at this point. I think their Japan branch will be fine. I don't think there's any issues there, but yeah, their English branch is definitely like on alert at this point. In danger. And it's such a shame too, because man, like, it's not like it's not like that they're lacking the talent. Like, I honestly think probably any of the three in Lazulite and Selene, maybe even Rosemi, and there's probably others I don't even really know about in the English branch that, I mean, honestly they're just as talented as anybody in Hololive, I think. I just remember watching Lazulite do their performance in at Anime Expo, and I really was impressed how talented they are. So yeah, I mean, any of the three Lazulite members leaving would have been like a really big blow, I think. You're expecting Selene to leave? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Selene. I don't know. I think there's still a chance she might actually keep at it and try to make things work with Niji Sanji. But I don't know. Well, I don't know. Do you want me to catch you up, Zane, on what's happened with Chaos Head here? I mean, you've missed quite a bit. No? Okay. Well, I guess let's just finish this scene off here, and then I'm gonna end the stream after that, so... That's impossible. So this voice was actually coming from the girl in front of me?
西条くん、大丈夫？
Her head was still slumped forward, but her eyes were turned up at me. She pointed a finger at my face. It was shaking.
タラリーって出てる。
I touched my face. The area under my nose was wet. My nose had been bleeding. She took out a pack of tissues from her pocket. I used it to wipe away the blood, feeling really creeped out. The transfer student...
コズピーだよ。
Kozupi's mouth wasn't moving. She wasn't speaking. So how could I hear her?
心の声なのら。
Stop ending your sentences like that. It's weird when 3D girls do it.
ごめん。
Wait, you can hear my thoughts too?
聞こえるよ。
普 通に話さないのはなんで？
恥ずかしいし。
I see. I understood how that felt. I was the same way. Her gaze suddenly darted back and forth like a little animal, before glancing at me and walking off toward the station on her own.
ここ離れた方がいいと思う。
Oh, really? He lost a gene. Well, that's too bad. Yeah, I haven't even started building Navia yet, because I'm still working on my new Valette team. I'm still building them up, actually. Why? I followed, confused. As I walked, I realized something. There was a stabbing pain in my side. Each step I took ached so much that I had to stop. I held my side and took a moment to catch my breath. There were so many people here. I hated Shibuya. It felt like everybody I passed was laughing at me. It felt like everybody was looking at me. It started to feel like everybody knew who I was. Don't look at me. Don't laugh at me. I need to rest somewhere without a lot of people around.
ほいじゃあ、いいところがあるなら。
Alright, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask it right now. Is this best girl? Because I don't know, she's kind of giving off best girl vibes right now. So, I don't know, we'll see. You got Navia right away. Oh, okay. I thought you had told me you had already gotten Navia, so I was kind of confused.
ご案内します。
FC, no, she is not best girl. Please talk about Genshin more? Navia is not best girl. Alright. So we got somebody saying that the blondie here is not best girl of Chaos Head, and we got Kat saying Navia is not. Well, okay, Kat, who is your Genshin best girl? I want to know. Fiorina? Really? Fiorina. That's interesting. Well, I will say Fiorina is a very well-developed character. I will say that. Like, she might be the worst. I mean, she might be the most well-developed character in Genshin Impact. But when I say best girl, I don't necessarily mean the most well-developed character. I just mean basically best girl for me is like whatever girl I have the biggest crush on, basically. And that's definitely Navia right now, so Ayaka, well that's Zane's former best girl before he switched to Nilu. Anyway, I'd only met Kozupi a few times at school, but now she was like a completely different person. And even though in the real world she was completely silent, in her mind she was... It was convenient to be able to talk to somebody mentally, but it was also obnoxious. Poor Fischl losing to Nanami. Bro, Fischl had the crown for over 3 years. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like, you know. Oh, okay, Cat's changing his mind. His best girl is Takumi? Okay. Interesting pick. And wait a sec. How did this even work? Was it a real psychic power?
やっぱりコズピーのこと気味悪いよね。こんなの普通じゃないし。
The fact that it's not normal doesn't really bother me. I've met a lot of weird people lately. And you might talk funny, but you're not scary or crazy. So you're a lot better than some of them. You know what? A thought just came into my head. This is now the second visual novel in a row that I've played where almost all of the girls in it are crazy. Because I'm telling you, dude, almost all the girls in Majikoi are crazy. And now we got this visual novel where almost all the girls are also crazy. Kozupi suddenly started to cry as she walked. Surprised, I handed back the tissues. She wiped her eyes with one of them, giving me a bow that was deeper than it needed to be. So, anyway, having you read all my thoughts is creepy, and uncomfortable, too. That's my honest opinion. The news reporter is not crazy? The news reporter? Bro, who cares about the news reporter? She's like such a minor character, bro. Why are we thinking about the news reporter? Yeah, that must suck. Actually, being able to read people's thoughts would be really weird. Because, yeah, you would have to hear all the fucked up weird thoughts, too. Like, you can't just filter those out. Like, if you read thoughts, you have to read all those weird ones along with the good ones. So, is that true? Well, I'm sure you don't want to hear that from a creepy otaku, like me, of course. I'm a creepy loser, and totally worthless. Just as I was starting to go back into depression mode, I heard Kozupi shout in my mind. She started crying again. Why are you crying? Are you pitying me? If so, then you don't need to do that. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Cat. It's too much of a habit, man. I can't just, like, turn it off, you know what I mean? I'm such a weirdo. I make up girls in my head and pretend they're real. Like Remy.
それって咲畑さんじゃなかった咲畑さんのこと？
You know her?
だってクラスメートだよ。西条くんの彼女さんなのら。
Yeah, right. Remy was just talking about killing him. She ain't his girlfriend. No, she's not.
あ、違うの？てっきりそうだとばっかり思ってた。
Okay, this scene needs to end because I really need to go to bed. I got work tomorrow, man. Oh yeah, and that Mario Kart tournament is tonight, but it's so late that I can't watch it because I'm gonna be asleep. That's what I hate about the Mario Kart tournament is they always do it like while people in the US are asleep because it's like so late. Kazupi knew Remy. That could only mean one thing. Remy was real. She wasn't a delusion. She wasn't somebody I'd invented in my head. She was a real person.
そうか。
Whew. But then, why wouldn't she make any effort to contact me? Maybe she'd given up on me after what happened at O-Front. Alright, see you later, Cat. I'm not streaming tomorrow, by the way, Cat, so I'll be back in 2 days. So, see ya.
咲畑さん、地震があったあの日、青い顔をして早退して行っちゃったのら。それ以来、学校来てないよ。もしかして家族に何か悲しいことがあったかも。
Oh. I felt so much better. Knowing that Remy hadn't given up on me after all made me feel like I was really going to cry. I had a reason to go to school again. I wanted to see Remy. Until she came back, I would keep forcing myself to go to school every day.
気をつけてね。
Huh?
西条くんが咲畑さんと付き合ってるって思ってたから言わなかったけど咲畑さんには気をつけて。
What does that mean?
咲畑さんはよくわかんないのら。
What does that mean, though? You don't understand her. You mean the crucified murder? Or are you talking about how all my memories of her being my classmate since our first year were missing? She was still mysterious in a lot of ways, sure. But she'd been there for me so many times. When I was scared, she offered to be by my side. She wasn't my enemy. Uh-oh. For some reason, Kazupi looked dizzy.
そんなに一度にいっぱい考えられると。コズピー、ついていきにゃい。
Sorry. It was kind of strange. When I was talking to people, I always had trouble getting out even a fifth of what I was trying to say. But talking like this might mean I'd have to work on not thinking too much. It was probably the same for Kazupi. I didn't think she'd talk so much in her mind.
喋ってるっていう感覚は薄いよ。考えてるだけ。それが流れ込むだけ。相手にはビビーって、相手からはドバーって。慣れてないと自分の思考と相手の思考がごちゃごちゃってなって、にゃーってなるの。
Please to speak Japanese, K thanks. I mean, I kind of get the nuance, but I guess she meant that there are none of the more subtle points of conversation. And you never have to worry about being too scared about what the other person would think, and not being able to say what you wanted to say. You couldn't try to read the room if every single thought you had was being shared. It wasn't one-way communication, but maybe it wasn't two-way communication either. Maybe it was like trying to focus on one out of a million things at once and ignoring the rest.
だから気楽だし距離感も近いけど傷つくことも簡単なの。
She frowned for a moment, but then an expression appeared on her face that was halfway between a smile and a sob.
西条くんは初めてなのにすんごく上手だよ。コズピーとビビビが合うの。
Beep beep beep, huh? Maybe she was saying we were on the same wavelength?
そう波長。
Well, I was always having similar conversations in my head with Seiraton. Maybe that was why.
でもあの時の西条くんは怖かったの。
Okay. I'm sorry, but I don't know how much longer this scene's gonna go, so I'm just gonna stop here. I need to get to bed, so... alright, well, as I told Kat Zane, I am not going to be able to stream tomorrow. So I will be back Tuesday, so 2 days from now. And I'm going to just stream Chaos Head again Tuesday, so maybe we'll watch some VTuber clips if you happen to be on the stream that day. And yeah, I guess that's all I got. So yeah, I got we're starting up orchestra rehearsals again. We got a bit of a break in December, but we're gonna go back to it again now. So that's tomorrow. So yep. All right, man. Hope glad to see you again. And hopefully I'll see you here again in a couple days. So have a good night.